I've got you for the first 10 minutes, and it's going to be interactive. So if you have your laptops, you can. If you don't, that's okay. But this will also be. It'll help if you have them. So what I'm going to do is I've got 10 minutes to help you Google like a pro Googler, as the slide would say. And the intention that I've got for this is just basically hopefully to show you some things that will help make your life easier, especially using the browser, but more importantly the search bar that we all use on a day-to-day basis, because it is the #1 website that we all use on a day-to-day basis. And well, why not learn how to do it more efficiently? So the good thing about the Google search bar is that it has the ability to allow us to put in keywords which will then actually make our searches better. And the first keyword, which I'm fairly certain most of us will know, is the word define. But essentially Google is the world's largest dictionary. And if we type define : and then followed by a word, it will then pop up the definition of that word. Has everyone used this before? Have we all used this one before? Good. So that's the first example, so define dictionary. The second example is that we can actually refine a search to a specific location, which by using the keyword location : we can then start saying, we can bring our searches to a specific location. So for an example here, you could type into the search bar Olympics, then / location Sydney, and that would bring up only the searches that relate to the Olympics in the location of Sydney, rather than having to type in 2000. So we can start to do that. Another example is the inverted commas, which this will allow us to actually search for an exact search term. So generally when we go to Google, we all type in what we want. For example, Sydney Olympics 2000 or whatever. With this, if we put it in between our inverted commas like this, it will look for any terms that relate to exactly as you spell it, in that order. So it won't jumble them back up or index them, it will just do it as you write it, which can actually limit your searches quite a lot. Once I've gone through this, we'll actually bring it up so we can actually have a play around and we'll have a quick look at them. This one here, our little red star symbol, so Shift 8, I believe it is on the keyboard, yep, is known as what's called a wildcard. And this here allows us to basically, it's a placeholder for a word that we don't know what that word is. So for example, in this particular example down here, obviously if it's a movie title or a book title, movie title, but we don't remember what the second word is, we can chuck the wildcard symbol in there and it will then go and search for every single word that it can think of that it matches in that area. So obviously much ado about nothing is what we're thinking of, but Google is smart enough to know that if we put the little star in there, it will start to just go, okay, let me find every example of something that matches what you've had a look at. Hyphen or the minus symbol allows us to remove things from the searches. So say for example, we know that we're looking for a specific, say a news article that happens to be on a specific day, we can put in the minus symbol followed by something and then it'll remove all of that news of that particular subject. So if you want to refine your search knowing I keep getting this particular event but I don't want it, chuck the minus symbol into your searches and you will then be able to just get rid of things that you don't want to see. And that can be very useful for trying to get to your target quicker. And the final one, which I want to talk about, and then this will also be available for you on, I'm going to share it with you so you'll be able to have a look at this as well, by the way. Final one is to use 2 dots side by side, allows us to specify a date range. So for the example here, I've just put Prime Ministers of Australia, but you can then type a date, ... and another date, and it will refine the searches to things that have to do with that date range. So it assumes that we're obviously talking about all the years with that 20-year period. By using these 6 together, we can actually start refining our searches a lot better, and we can actually then start finding the information quicker, which will save you time and headaches, hopefully, when you're looking for class information and things like that. Now, this is where we're going to get into the active one. So Google also allows us to search with with our voices, and I'm going to show you why this is actually important and why it's actually really a really good feature. Because it does what's called nested searching, which is this. For example, I can say, who is the current Prime Minister of Australia? And it'll go ahead and
Malcolm Turnbull is the Prime Minister of Australia.
Okay, so once I get that now, what I mean by nested searching is now I can ask it a question based on my previous question without actually, without having to retype that whole thing. And what I mean by that is this. I can say, who is his family?
His relatives include Lucy Turnbull, Coral Lansbury, and others.
Where does his wife work? And then I'll go and see. And so what we can start to do is you can then hit start, right? So I know that's a bit stalkerish, but but the idea of it being is that you can ask Google questions and repeated questions, and it will then know that you're talking about the previous question, what you asked, and then it assumes, right, we're continuing on this question path. And that becomes very, very powerful, especially when you don't want to have to say everything over and over and over and over and over again. Moving on to the next one, we have, after here, it'll be interactive as well, but did you know that you can search Google with images? You can actually, if we go to Google's homepage and we click on the image, and we go to images.google, images.google.com, there is actually this little camera here. What we can do is we can upload an image into Google, and I've prepared an image here on my desktop. And what it will do is it will then have a look at that image and see where that image came from as its first guess. So as you can see, the image that I uploaded is there at the top, this one here, and it's now gone into the web and said, I think that this has got to do with this website. And then it also says, well, here are some other images that are strikingly similar to that image as well. So this becomes very handy. So for example, you have an image that you weren't sure where this image came from, put it into the Google image search, and it will then say, this is where I found the image from. So you can actually, for example, let's say high school teachers, if you think someone's been plagiarizing something, you could actually, rather than look for their text, grab the images they've used, chuck that in and see what website that image came from. And that can actually give you a better idea of those things. Halfway through, so moving on. Alright, so moving on, the final thing that I want to show is that there's obviously some tools in Google which we probably all use on a day-to-day basis, but there may be some that you didn't know existed. So the first example that we have is Google has an inbuilt timer / stopwatch. So you can just say set, let's go back to actual Google, and we can just go, I want to use this, set timer for 5 minutes. And away goes the timer, and so now it's ticking down, so we've now got an inbuilt timer. If you ever lost a clock or a stopwatch, for example, we have our stopwatch goes up. That's one. The next tool, which we probably all use, we all use Google Weather. Have we all done that before? We all typed in looking for the weather into Google. Have we done that before? Most of us have, but what's really good is that we say, let's just say weather, spell at Oran Park. It pops up this tool, and not only does it tell us the current time, we can actually click and drag and over here and see what it's expected to be at 7 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. We can start having a look, what's the percentage of rain, we can go down a couple of days, so on and so forth. Another tool that we all use, they have the unit converters and currency converter, which is this one. So we can pick basically what any sort of unit that we want, mass, kilogram, and we can then do that conversion in the browser itself. Google Trends, Google Translator we'll look at. Obviously, we all know we all have heard of Google Translate. pretty sure we have. Basically, we know no one needs to have a how to speak language thing again, especially when traveling overseas. But what's good about Google's is it will detect the language that you're speaking. So if we can literally do the microphone and go, hello. And it knows we've got English, but then we can
Hello.
go through and
Hello.
and have a listen and have a look at those different ones as well. And the one that I found out that I didn't realise that you could do for the maths people out there is that you can actually get Google to graph for you in the browser. You can actually type in, for example, there I've got graph for, you could write graph for 9 times 2, for example, or something like that, and it'll show you the graph. So you can type in for the ones for our high school teachers, when you start getting higher up, you can actually put these straight into Google and start playing around with that stuff. More.
So what you said in maths today, I don't think
The final tool is the extensions. Now, Google itself has it's like its own application, its own operating system, like Mac, like Windows, essentially. And the extensions can be found at the Google Web Store. Now, in the top left-hand corner, you may be able to see up there, there is the little apps. Generally, that'll be on your browser. If not, you can type in Google Web Store into your browser. And when you do that, this will take you through to show you what applications you have installed on your browser. Testing out a few of them, a couple of testing ones. But on their web store, the Google extensions are more important because this allows you to actually customize your browser experience. The first example, the Google Calendar has got an annoying scroll up, scroll down when you're in month view, which I know I've got sick of it. I typed into Google and I found a Google web extension which stops that annoying scroll. So it only goes left or right if I tell it to go left or right, rather than if I'm scrolling on my mouse or a mouse pad. And the Google Web Store is very, very important, very powerful, because if you think that you've got a problem, most likely someone has got it there. I'm now just about to run over time, so I will pretty much stop there. For example, this one I want to tell you about though, uBlock Origin. This is the name of an extension. If you hate ads on YouTube and you hate seeing random pop-ups and things, I highly recommend downloading this onto your browser. Called uBlock Origin. So no more ads in the front of YouTube videos, even if you don't have Google Play and what I have. I'm going to make this available for all of you to have a look at, but I just want to show you one fun thing on Google. They basically have coded in a whole bunch of Easter eggs into their browser, and if you know what they are, you can get your browser to do things like this. There's plenty more of them on the thing, but that's it. If you have any questions or you want to learn more about that stuff, drop them on. You do things like that. But yeah, that's it. If you have any more questions, let me know, and I'll help you Google like a pro Googler. Yes, Mike.
That's so sneaky, Shane.
These I'll share them with you. I haven't shared, but I'll share them with all staff.
Okay, can I get you to put your laptops away because you don't need them for the next part of the meeting today? What we are going to